Hi, and welcome back. If you live with generalized anxiety, you probably already know this frustration. You're not anxious about just one thing. You're anxious about everything, or about the possibility of everything. Your mind is constantly scanning. What if this goes wrong? What if I miss something? What if that happens? What if I get sick with this? What if something bad happens and I can't handle it? No matter how much reassurance we get, the anxiety still comes back. So today I want to talk about cognitive behavioral therapy, which is called CBT, for generalized anxiety, what it actually is, why it works when it's done correctly, and how to use one of its most powerful tools, the thought record. If you're new here, hi, I'm Amy Rose White. I'm an integrative psychotherapist and astrologer. I've been doing that for a couple of decades. And on this channel, I make videos about self-healing tools. You can find my free nervous system reset guide down in the description below. And thank you so much for liking, hyping, and sharing this video. It means the world to me. Okay, let's get started. Generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, is not about being weak, negative, or dramatic. It's about a pattern of thinking paired with a sensitized nervous system. Often goes along with trauma, but not always. People with GAD tend to overestimate threats in the environment, underestimate their abilities to cope, feel responsible for preventing bad outcomes and bad things happening, and often live in a constant state of mental rehearsal. Anxiety is not trying to hurt you, it's actually trying to protect you by thinking ahead. The problem is, it never stops. So cognitive behavioral therapy is often really misunderstood. It is not positive thinking, it's not about gaslighting yourself, and it's not pretending bad things won't happen. CBT is about learning to identify unhelpful thinking patterns, evaluate those realistically using the scientific method, and respond with thoughts that are more accurate, balanced, useful, and effective. CBT works especially well for generalized anxiety because GAD lives largely in thought loops, and thoughts are something we can work with. I'm going to make a separate video about how to merge and use CBT with somatic therapies, but that's a talk for another day. So cognitive behavioral therapy is based on a simple but powerful idea that thoughts create feelings, which create our behaviors. So an anxious thought triggers a fear response in the body. That fear response leads to behaviors like avoidance, reassurance seeking, and over-preparing. Those behaviors reduce the anxiety temporarily, which teaches the brain that the thought was correct, and the cycle repeats. CBT interrupts this loop. So step one is learning to catch our thoughts. People with GAD often say, I don't know what I'm thinking, I just feel anxious. And that's because anxious thoughts are fast, habitual, and automatic. So the first skill is slowing the moment down and asking, what was happening right before I felt anxious or fearful? What was the image, prediction, or sentence in my mind? Or simply, where was I and what was happening? This is where the thought record comes in. So I'm going to walk you by how to use a CBT thought record step by step. We're going to go slow because this tool is only helpful if it's done with curiosity and compassion, not self-criticism. So step one, you can see it here. I'm going to allow the whole screen to be taken up by the thought record. In that far left column, you'll see a label of the situation. So we briefly write down and describe what happened. Example, I sent an email to my boss and I haven't heard back. Step two is to notice what feelings you had and where they were in your body and rate them by a percentage. Felt 100% terrified, 60% sad, 30% angry. Then we start to write down the automatic negative thoughts. What did your mind immediately go to say? So for example, I said something wrong, they're upset, this is going to affect my job, I'm going to get fired. So we write down all the thoughts without judgment. This is not about whether the thought is true, just whether it showed up. So we fill out that column to the best of our ability. Step three is where we start to collect evidence for the thought, that the thought is actually 100% true all of the time. Now, this is where people often get stuck. We have to list actual evidence, not feelings, because feelings aren't facts. So for example, they usually respond quickly. That's it. Okay, we have facts. that the person usually responds quickly, but that doesn't mean that we're in trouble or we're upset. There's no actual evidence to put in that column that we know we're about to get fired because our boss hasn't texted us back yet. Then in the next column, we write down evidence against the thought. Now that prior column is usually empty because there's hardly ever a lot of black and white evidence for our fearful, anxious, negative-based thinking. Even if we feel like it's true, or even maybe we know someone where the boss didn't text them and they got fired, or they found a lump in their breast and it turned out to be cancer, we don't have any evidence that is definitely true for us 100% of the time. So this next step, gathering evidence that the thought might not 100% be true, is really crucial. So we might write down, I do know that they've been in meetings all day. There could be many explanations. I've received positive feedback recently. This is where the anxious brain starts to soften. So now we evaluate, based on the whole thought record, especially those two columns, what's the evidence that supports that thought is true 100% of the time, and what's the evidence that does not support that thought is true for sure. We write in the next column a balanced alternative thought. Not positive, not dismissive, but balanced. So for example, I don't know why they haven't responded yet. There are multiple possible explanations, and I can handle whatever happens. This is the heart of CBT. Now we say, think, and feel that thought in our body, and then in the next column, we re-rate our emotions. How do we feel now? After the new thought, rate our emotional distress again. Often it doesn't go to 0 or like I'm completely happy, but CBT is more about reducing intensity, not eliminating emotion. So why thought records work for GAD? Generalized anxiety thrives on certainty seeking, over responsibility, catastrophic prediction, and thought records train our brain to tolerate uncertainty, question anxious assumptions, and respond rather than react. Over time, this changes neural pathways. Our brain learns, I don't have to panic every time an automatic negative thought shows up. Here are some common CBT pitfalls that are really important. CBT does not work well when we try to force calm, we argue aggressively with our thoughts, we skip body regulation, we expect anxiety to disappear instantly. CBT works best when paired with nervous system regulation, self-compassion, and repetition. This is a practice you're going to do many, many times, not a performance. So CBT is definitely not the whole picture. It's just one tool in my toolbox, but it's a really powerful one that I believe everyone should learn. For some people, especially those with trauma, CBT alone simply isn't enough. But for generalized anxiety, it's an extremely effective foundation. It gives us a sense of agency, mental clarity, distance from some of our anxious thoughts, and we learn that thoughts are events, not commands. So if you live with generalized anxiety, I want you to know this. Your mind is truly not broken. It's simply overprotective, and CBT gives you a way to work with your mind instead of fighting with it. If you found this helpful, I hope you find my depression and anxiety playlist useful as well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.